Welcome, bold ones, especially those of you that are building intimacy and impact in your business and your leadership. You're listening to Balance Boldly, the space where innovative overachievers, those impact-driven and high-performing visionaries, stop performing and start living. The performance era is over, guys. You know, there's more to life than just the little highlight reels we see on social media. I talk about it all the time on Substack and on Instagram, on LinkedIn, pretty much everywhere that you can find anyone nowadays. And what I would love to talk to you more about today is partially why I decided to kind of pivot the former version of the Balance Boldly podcast that we've been running since this rendition since about 2016. I actually started podcasting in 2012 with a previous show called Balance Beam, but people thought we were a gymnastic show, so I had to get bold and we stepped into Balance Boldly. And the previous kind of subtitle of that show was For Ambitious Women in Business and a Few Brave Men. Now, that was a fun title. I meant it. That was the audience that I was talking to. They were ambitious humans, just like myself, and a few brave men, just like my husband, who are also ambitious and beautiful and brilliant in all the wonderful ways that the men in our lives are. However, as I evolved and realized that I'm a bit of a lazy overachiever, and specifically a lazy, innovative overachiever. Of course, if you know me, then you know I make up words and redefine phrases and words all the time. I call them Naketa-isms. If you don't know me, then you're probably a little taken aback by a term like lazy, especially for me as a Black woman saying that. I definitely 1000% do not mean it in the way that the world sees lazy. When they say shiftless or you don't want to do anything with your time or yourself or, you know, any of those things that make lazy a negative. And by and large, it can still be seen as a negative term, but not over here, not at the Pro Balance and Relationship Management Institute, the company I've been running for 14 years as a lazy overachiever who's very innovative and evolved. The way that I use lazy, and I talk about this more on a different podcast that I literally have called the Lazy Overachiever. I mean that in terms of someone who, you know, you do all the things that you do. You're a doer, you get things done, you love what you do and all the things, but you've come to a space in your life where you embrace rest and you want to have rest without the guilt and shame that's generally attached to it. Most people, when you're ambitious and you're building portfolio, whether you're in business, leadership, career ladder growth, whatever it is, typically hear the word lazy, the term, let alone, you know, associate it to putting it as a label on someone. I'm like, oh, they must not do anything with themselves or their lives and must not be interested. I'll say Google me. I'm not going to sit here and list off all the certifications, degrees, and all the things that I have. I will say my portfolio, my CV, it all speaks for itself. And I embrace being a little lazy. I like balancing my day with white space. I like infusing what I call purple blocks, because purple is one of my favorite colors, of highlighted time, these permission to pause blocks, as I really call them, on my schedule. I like seeing that. I like having time to sit and be, to not do anything. I like the doing. I love the doing, in fact, especially when I'm with my client partners, my power partners, my referral partners, my partners in life, my friends, my family. I absolutely love the doing, but what allows me to love that doing is to do it without sitting in a space of resentment because I'm overextended, overwhelmed. I'm over engineering all the things because I'm trying to do more effectively, more efficiently, especially now in this innovative age with AI. which I have no problem with AI, guys. Use AI, do whatever you need to do with it. I like to use it as a little bit of a thought partner as well. When I have something already written, already drafted from my inner brilliance, from my genius, and say, okay, let me throw this in here and see if there's anything I can shape or shift or mold or take out, because I'm very verbose. I talk a lot and I can write that same way. So sometimes I'll use it for trimming and all the things. Rarely do I use it to literally create out of the ether, but occasionally it'll give me something that muses me in a direction of like, oh, you know what? Let me try taking this in a different direction. That's just how I like to use AI. If you use it differently to create from 0 to 60, from A to Z, then so be it. Go and enjoy. Just be mindful to make sure that whatever you're innovating and creating, whether you're using a tool like AI or some other innovative tool, that you're mindful of the human connection. There hopefully is a human that's reading it, digesting it, receiving whatever it is that you're doing. And you want to make sure there's intimacy in it, that it's not just this kind of jargon-filled, garbled thing that came out. And yes, it was grammatically correct and it had appropriate bullet points and M dashes and hyphens or whatever it is that you're using, but it's like machine to machine. You want to go beyond the algorithm is one of my keynotes, actually. Like you literally want to move beyond that by making sure there's intimacy in what you're doing, that the fact that you're doing it is to create, hopefully, a better connected world and give people deeper impacts, deeper ripples, deeper connection in whatever way that you're doing it, whether it's a product or service. Went off on a little bit of a riff and a rant. I do that sometimes, especially when we're talking about innovation, because I feel like very much so one of my reasons for taking a pause from the Balance Bully podcast for almost a year, the biggest pause I've ever taken. We've taken seasonal breaks while I'm taking micro sabbaticals that I call self-lovecation, which we've been doing for the last 12 of 14 years in business every single summer for roughly 6 weeks, sometimes 8, sometimes 4. And it's literally so I can shed old patterns, so I can rebuild, rebalance, recalibrate, whatever it is I need to do, so that when I come back into connection with the humans that I love working with and I love partnering with, from clients to friends, family, and everyone in between, that I'm not literally sitting in frustration because I'd rather be, hashtag I'd rather be somewhere else. And I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that human. When I sit in your presence, I want to be fully present. I don't want to care where my phone is. I don't want to think about the dinner that I'm, cooking in the crock pot and making sure the timer's on right, or, playing with one of my G babies, as I call them. I have 3 grandbabies. Or doing something else for my kids, or whatever the case is. I want to be fully present. And in order to do that, I have to do things more potently. It's not always less, although sometimes doing less can be the whole do less and you'll get more out of it and you'll make more room. I do believe in that. But I believe your less should be less when it's potent, when it's literally like a concentrated elixir that all you need is a few drops or sprinkles to heal whatever it is that needs to be healed. And I'm speaking a bit metaphorically because I'm a metaphysician. I can't talk. And sometimes that comes out that way. I speak in a lot of analogies. So if you're new to the BBP for Balance Bully podcast, get used to it. I'm very visual. I'm positive that I'm neurodivergent in some kind of way, in addition to seriously having ADD. And it's awesome. And it works with me. It works for me. That set aside, knowing that I needed to do something different for my life, my stage, my space in business as a woman who is nearing 50, who is in full-blown menopause due to surgery that I had in 2021 that literally catapulted me into it with like seconds, but within that first 12 to 15 months after. So I've been dealing with it. I never even got a chance to really go through perimenopause, although I think there were some loose signs there in the, maybe a year or so before. But beyond that, I'm in a different stage in my life. I have a whole big, beautiful family, a whole huge world that is growing and expanding in addition to, not in spite of, not instead of my business, but in addition to. I have other businesses that I'm working on and other things that I'm doing as well. And I still qualify myself as lazy. I'm like circling back to that. Being lazy in the way that I define it is literally about understanding, recognizing, and being more than okay with, in fact, championing the need for embracing the rest, specifically so you can recharge and you can live and love and lead in your life in a way that feels really fulfilling and doesn't feel exhausting, or as a lot of, other words would say where you're eroding, you're feeling like you're in a space of erosion. I don't want to do that. I'm already getting older. I'm already very mindful of my calcium intake and potassium intake. So my bones will love me into my 90s. I don't want to erode my mind or my body, let alone my spirit, because I'm feeling the need to be in step with whatever social media is saying or what other people are saying. I'm a naturally rebellious person. Honestly, I came out the womb that way. And I'm not rebellious for rebellious sake. Like, I'm not just going the opposite way that other people are doing. I zig and I zoom literally by the beat of my own inner brilliance, which is kind of my phrasing for intuition. I'm doing it not because I want to be opposite, but I feel compulsively internally pulled towards a different north of sorts. And sometimes it's in step with some people in the world and other people in the world, maybe even majority at that time. Many times it's not, just being completely honest. So what you're going to receive if you stay with me and you allow this in your ecosystem, in your air gate, if you stay with me through BBP, the new version of it has moved from this kind of, relational capacity expansion where we were looking at how ambitious women and those who brave men were balancing boldly with, giving themselves ways to, as I like to say, give yourself permission to pause while you're working in your organization or you're building a business. That's all still very relevant because I literally own a personal development and embodied relational wellness company called Think Pro Balance and Relational Management Institute. So Relationship Management Institute, excuse me. It's clearly all still connected, but we've evolved more. We've expanded more into really looking at the intimacy and impact because people are, and myself included, becoming even more innovative than they already were, partially because we have tools that make it a little bit easier, that make things more adaptable. I would have never considered myself a techie, although I think I've been using technology enough to be a little dangerous, but I would definitely not have called myself a techie. I'm not even sure I would still call myself a techie now, but it's almost hard to not be on the fringes of technology, or a technologist, I think is the official term that people use that are like super into it. I'm learning more about it. I'm infusing it in our business more with dashboards and different things we're creating specifically for like the metrics that weren't usually, or they're not normally easily quantifiable because of the soft skill of balance and relationship and leadership and personal development and all the kind of, umbrellas that we fall under in the work that I do. Little context here, small bracket, pulling myself out for a minute because I realize many of you don't know me. So in addition to being a PhD in relationship dynamics, my first, almost 30 years of my life between psychology, sociology, anthropology, eventually getting a master's in clinical social work and social research, adding to it being a trauma specialist, which is where I made my bones in all of my applied expertise for literally almost 20 years of that time. All of that has led me, including sexology and so many other certifications, because I am a #nerd for life. I'm a forever learner. In addition to all of those things, I'm an entrepreneur and a co-founder of one business and a founder of a couple more that are brewing in the background, which I'm just not talking about yet because we're in the super, super early stages of things. My rooting, if you will, is human behavior. If you had to take away all the other frames and terms, I love trying to figure out humans. And part of it was because I was trying to figure out myself. I was trying to figure out my family. I was trying to figure out the whys and the why nots and the how comes. And all of the things that I continue to learn about myself and to learn outside of myself is deeply connected to that. Even when I'm learning how to play with AI, I'm looking at the human connection. I'm looking at the ethics around it. I'm looking at the gaps in it. I'm looking at how to use it in a way that doesn't make people feel further apart, but brings us together, how to be responsible in the use of AI and any other innovative tool that I use, especially because, considering I'm someone who has never considered myself a traditional creative. My creativity isn't like my husband and my sons and my daughter. They can write. My husband can write, draw, and everything else. He can do all the creative things. My daughter's a triple threat with dancing and acting and all the other things that she's been doing over her life, in addition to the educational pieces that come with that. And my son is a consummate creative with photography, writing, poetry, and music, and everything in between. I've always called him as kind of like a skateboard kid. And mind you, my kids are grown. They're 29 and nearly 25. And at this point, at the time of this recording, and in the end of 2025, they're both parents now, which gives us our 3 beautiful, gorgeous, brilliant grandbabies that I call G babies. They are traditional creatives. I've always considered myself a non-traditional creative because I'm a creator by means of I design solutions to problems. That's always been my gift. Give me a problem, and I'm not saying from a mathematical perspective, give me some huge number and I'll tell you, what it calculates to. It's usually give me a real life problem, something happening in your real life, in your marital bedroom, so to speak, to your organizational leadership boardroom. I'm going to help you solve it and then make sure we can amplify the intimacy and the joy that you can have while you impart your wisdom in that process and you carry out whatever we kind of co-created together. I'm going to help you have fun in the background of all those things. And it won't always look fun because sometimes I have to pull out my trauma specialist hat and do some deep rooted inner child work or, mindfulness or whatever else is coming up at the time. And again, my intuition is my strongest gift. So I'm going to intuitively use whatever tool is the most aligned with helping to co-create a solution with you. If I'm in partnership with you, you as in my clients and my friends and family and power partners know this as well. They've benefited from us being in each other's energy ecosystem because of it. But also for myself and making sure that I'm listening within before I just start to kind of jump out and execute, because when I've not listened has cost me the most financially, mentally, emotionally, physically, and everything in between. That said, and all the things I just layered, then I'm closing that bracket on that kind of bookmark that I started in the middle of sharing with you about laziness and how I've redefined it, why I've redefined it, and why I've intertwined it into Balance Boldly. Closing that bracket on my background was really just to give you a little context of where some of the stories, the conversations, the nuggets will come from. It literally will be a mix of evidence-based science, as well as my intuition, my applied knowledge from, nearly 30 years of working with humans, well over, I always say 20,000 humans because that was the last count, like 6 or 7 years ago. It's well over that now, but I just stick to the number just to keep it simple. Because I stopped counting. I think my ego had me counting up until that point, and I've stopped counting. So it's well over that number. I don't know what the number is right now, but I know I am excited and truly grounded in my being when I think about the beautiful ways that I've been privileged, and I do see it as a privilege, that I've been privileged to support other humans outside of myself. There's an acronym that I used from way back in the day when I was praying and I was asking God, like, what's my purpose? What's the reason I'm put on this planet? And I kept hearing and seeing, because I'm very visual, the word awesome. You are awesome. And I was like, okay, well, that feels so empty and, okay, thanks. But me and God, like, thanks. But, what does that mean? And awesome is an acronym, which was spelled out to me spiritually as an amazing woman encouraging someone other than myself to elevate. That is my purpose. Now, I've learned over time and years and pain to monetize that in a way that could allow our whole family to feel the awesomeness and feel the ripple of it, because I didn't want to be a martyr. I didn't want to be an awesome person out here helping the world and trying to figure out how to put food in the refrigerator either, with my husband, of course, of nearly 30 years. Actually over. We've been together since 94, friends since 91, married since 99, guys. So whatever that is. Again, at some point I stopped counting. But at this point in 2025, it's been a minute. We both kept each other around for a minute with love and with integrity and with joy, even through the hard parts. Okay. So pulling that aside as well, knowing that my purpose is to be awesome, I want to make sure that in this podcast, which will, be kind of broken down in different ways over time through a Substack, because some of you like to listen, some of you like to read, and I like to write letters. So my Substack, as of November 2025, at least, is going to be all letter based. Will still be filled with nuggets and joys, just like this conversation. I'm having a conversation, it feels like, with myself, because there's no one on the other side. Occasionally we will interview some innovative overachievers as well. Those are, again, those impact-driven, high-performing visionaries. And some are doing better than others when it comes to giving themselves permission to pause and embracing the lazy part of being a lazy, innovative overachiever, which is my absolute favorite version of person to play with. But sometimes I'll just take them at the innovative, overachieving side of them. And that's okay too. That's okay too. There's no judgment here. This is a judgment-free zone on all levels. With that said, I want to make sure that we're moving towards doing what is that phrase? I want to say it was Martin Luther King. I almost feel like I want to say, don't quote me when I say, like, be the change you want to see in the world. I always forget who actually said it, but I know it's a fantastic quote. It's something that sticks with me. It's not necessarily a mantra, but it definitely sticks with me. And it is something that is a visual guiding when I think of, like, why ultimately are we doing these things? I want to live in a world that celebrates the balance of things and not just the acceleration or the constant need to go, 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 because that gets really old really fast. This constant just doing, constant visibility, constant output, constant, be everywhere. And, unless you're using the right tools, like an evergreen system where you can upload once and it sheds to all your spaces from a social media perspective, then fine, great. But most of us aren't doing it that way. And even when you are, you're trying to, because you can share evergreen, you're doing more and more and more, and you're just literally a part of the noise. Most of the people I've worked with have mastered the motion, but they're tired of spinning. They don't need another productivity hack. They literally need permission to pause, which is why I said that through line from the previous version of BBP is coming to this one. They want to live success that isn't a lie. And I don't want anyone to feel like they have to be riding this adrenaline high of their ambition while letting their genius kind of, exhaust them because they're trying to keep up with the FOMO and everything else. It's just literally the ambition is costing too much. And it's part of why people don't want to even claim being an overachiever, when in fact, if you look at your portfolio of accomplishments, if you've given yourself an opportunity to do that, just kind of list out what you've done in the last 6 months, let alone the last 5 years, let alone the last 10 and so on, you probably qualify as an overachiever. Take 1 or 2, maybe 3 things that you've done in the last 5 years. And most people could honestly say that has been, those 1 to 3 things has been the main things that they've done. And they really haven't done anything else, where for you, it's probably 10%. I used to say this all the time. I think other people have started saying it. So I also pull back on things that I say where I feel like other people are starting to saturate it and pick up too much. I don't know why. Again, it's that, rebellious by nature version of me. But I used to say all the time, like, my 50% is someone else's 150. But that doesn't mean that I should sit and live in the 50%. That doesn't make me feel good either. I acknowledge and grapple with the reality and honor that I get to be an overachieving human that also gets to choose when to slow down, when to stop altogether, when to quit something, when to let something go. And it doesn't take away from the wholeness of who I am, the self-actualization of what I've become in this particular hour of my life, just because I decided, you know what? I've been working for 4 hours straight, and not only do I want a water break, I think I want a break for the rest of the afternoon. Because what I did in that 4 hours, people sometimes often take 10, 15 to 20 to get done. And it's not meant for you to sit as an overachiever, especially an innovative one. It's not meant for you to put yourself on a pedestal above other people, or to say, you know, hey, I'm team so much versus team too much. I'm team so much that I did all this stuff, and screw you little people that can only do 2 or 3. That's not what that's about. It's acknowledging and honoring your ambitiousness that allows you to be overachieving and to do more than what others would consider necessary. Sometimes doing more than what you would even consider necessary, but it's a part of your process. And owning that's okay. It's okay as long as you are not driving yourself into an expensive debt that you cannot pay. And that expensive debt is your health, right? When your health is at risk, your healthier, the normally healthier relationships are at risk. You know, your friends around you, your friends and family, or, you know, even your business partnerships, or your lead, you know, friends in leadership, whatever. I call them pro friends, professional friends. They're starting to feel like they can't connect with you anymore because you are hashtag booked and busy and you don't have time for them. Now, I'm not talking about those who have often said, because I've heard this too, like, oh, you know, you're so busy, I didn't want to bother you. Sometimes that's about them, that's not about you. And you do have to be able to differentiate. Sometimes people are projecting onto you because you're not available to them multiple times in a day, multiple times in the week, for them to have conversations that really aren't necessary for you to be in conversation with them. Not to say that they're not worth conversating with, but you have other higher priorities, because for you, if you go by my definition of balance, which is a formula, you've admitted that the truth of what you really want in this world requires you to have boundaries so you can achieve that truth as your reality. And because of that, maybe you don't have 3 hours to just sit in a conversation because someone else has a job or a position or a business or a lifestyle where they can talk to you for 3 hours and walk around and do whatever they want to do, when you need your 3 hours for something that's focused and that needs to get complete, or at least needs to get in action. Doesn't mean that you still can't take time for them, but you do want to make sure that you're kind of separating, because there are people who absolutely just want to access you while it's convenient for them. And it has nothing to do with you really being in partnership or friendship with them. They simply want access. And maybe it's because of your energy, your partnership in terms of like what you share with them, what you give, what you over give to them. Maybe, you know, if you're like me, you're probably over giver. Many overachievers are over many things. You're also an over giver, over extender, an overdoer. And if you are overdoing all those things, typically when you start to pull back for yourself, sometimes it's for your project or your business or your passion or whatever, that ultimately is connected for something that you want more for you, then the people who were benefiting from that overage of you often will start to say things to make you feel, or potentially make you feel like you have changed in a way that's negative, when the reality is you're evolving in a way that's expansive and beneficial for who you are now in this moment, as well as who you are becoming. Because it's not all about the future version of you, although it's helpful and spiritually aligned for you to think about where you want to be in this world in, 2 seconds, 2 days, 2 years, 20 years, and so on and so forth, so that you can constantly be in a contributive space in the way that you move through this world. That's all great. But you also need to live for now. And looking at what is the now matters, especially when you have people who are just extracting from you. And being able to separate is important. There are responsibilities that you have that may feel very extractive, may actually be extractive, and it just is what it is in this season of your life. But then there are also people, places, and patterns that are leeching from you that are absolutely unnecessary. And you're so, quote unquote, booked and busy that you don't have the bandwidth and the capacity to take a moment and back up and say, hold on, this is a lot. Where can I trim? What needs to be let go? Who needs to be let go? And who is literally just holding on to pull from me? They're not putting anything into my ecosystem. They're not giving me anything. Maybe they gave me years, because we could say we've been friends for 20 years, or I've known this person for X number of time, or we used to work together, or whatever the case is. Maybe you can go back by date, but are you able to go into a space where you're not the one that's constantly feeling like you're in debt, like you owe them something, even though they're constantly taking? I don't want to get off topic, because again, as a relationship expert, I'm always going to circle back to how those relationships, including the one with yourself, are impacting your ability to be innovative, to be able to sustain your success, to have quality mental health, to have a quality relationship with others that actually matter to you. I'm always going to center back to that. So came off for a moment, but want to come back to where we are. I am a lazy, innovative overachiever. This podcast is specifically for innovative overachievers who want to embrace a little bit more permission to pause, a little bit more presence, a little bit more partnership, so you can sustain success and live fully as you're growing your careers and your business. If I had to sum it into a parentheses, that's what that's for. Balance Boldly exists to help you re-engineer the structure that keeps you steady while you scale. Everything for me at this point is a relationship infrastructure. It's a recalibration system. My private advisory is about recalibrating. My licensing of IPs, of all those programs and frameworks and methods I've created over the last 14 plus years, are literally about recalibrating. And the ultimate purpose is so that people can create joy. That's what I'm deeply connected to in this hour of my life. It's not new, guys. I've been talking about creating your balance, creating your joy for years. They used to even be, what do you call them? Taglines that we used to have for our business. We've just kind of moved away from all that stuff. I'm also in this stage and age where I am simplifying. I literally just want to simplify, and I want to work with founders and leaders. I call them innovative overachievers that are just done pretending. There's no more, hey, I just closed $1 million deal, but I still feel emotionally overdrawn. And if you are feeling that way, I want to be able to support you. It'll start with you listening to this podcast. It's free. It's going to be and continue to be everywhere, from wherever you're listening to it right now to potentially clips if I feel like getting back into video, because honestly, that was something that was taxing me. Today, if we create any clips from this particular thing, this is beautiful, clean, naked face, Afro puff ponytail. There's no makeup. And mind you, I love me a good red lip, honey. Okay. A good nude lip, a good red lip, and sometimes a couple colors in between. I love, love, love it. I also love to drink tea, and I don't feel like smearing it on every single cup. And I often want to have a conversation where I want to just turn on the Riverside.fm, get to recording, and not have to worry about oh my goodness, what is this looking faded? I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm not. Once in a blue, I'll record a video and I'll splice it up or have it spliced up, and we'll put clips of it on IG, LinkedIn, and, Substack or whatever, through our tools, because we do believe in innovative tools that we use that shares it in those spaces. That's not going to be probably, I'm going to say, I'm gonna just go ahead and say 90% of the time, it's going to be an audio podcast, and there won't be any clips. There might be a still shot that I took from a different day when I felt like the lighting was okay. And as you get to know me, you know that I'm not even into pictures and all that. My friends and family have to force me to take them, not because I don't think I'm sexy, because I'm sexy. I don't have any doubts or questions about that. I just don't often care to take a picture. I just don't. I capture the picture, the memory in my mind. I am becoming better at taking pictures of the G babies, but that's a whole separate conversation, just because I grew up not having a lot of pictures of myself and I want them to have them. But I also, and my husband points it out too, will say, and he, is the main one to say it because he absolutely hates pictures, is, just feel the moment. You don't have to pull out the camera. Some are definitely camera worthy moments, but many times just be in it and capture it with your mind and create another kind of core memory, even though the core memories are done after about 7 to 9 years old. But you know what I'm saying? Just bring it in and let it be a part of your beingness more than anything. But not without going on another riff and a rant. Coming back, I hope that you'll be with me here for BBP. Most episodes will be somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes, and the occasional lengthy one like this. I want to really make sure that we're leading with intimacy for yourself, for your partnerships, for your intimate relationships, and everyone. And when I say intimate, I'm not just talking about sexual. Intimacy is way more than that. I want to make sure that we're recalibrating ourselves and we're in a space where we can feel good about doing great things. And also feel the feels when things don't feel great, because that's important too. That's another part of the process. Your courage, your rest that is required for you before your break and not just after is really important to me. I don't want you to do less, like I said earlier, unless you're going to do it potently. Just make sure that you're ready to lead differently from a place of wholeness and not depletion. Being a lazy, innovative overachiever is not about opting out of ambition. It's about choosing your rest, your clarity, and your connection as your markers of power. So as we get ready to close out, I just want to take an integration moment and slow down for a moment, wherever you are, in the car, at your desk, on your Peloton, walking between meetings, whatever it is. Just stop for 10 to 15 seconds. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. And just check in. Where's your energy right now? Do you feel scattered? Do you feel connected? There's no judgment. It's just a checking in, because the first step is awareness. Now, I want you to go back to whatever it was that you were doing, just knowing that you're in a space to already move differently, because you're agreeing with yourself that different is required in this hour of your life. So enjoy the balance of your day, but do it boldly. If you're not already a subscriber, please make sure that you subscribe here wherever you are listening to this full episode. If you heard a clip, make sure you go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast from and subscribe, so you'll get a notification of the maybe twice a month when these drop. I will also encourage you to come sit with me over at Fig Pro Quo. The link will be in the show notes, which is on Substack. That's the platform we're choosing to use in this hour. Over there, Fig Pro Quo are the love letters that I'm writing to you as an innovative overachiever. It's literally where balance meets brilliance and intimacy fuels innovation. I hope to see you there, but if nothing else, I hope you'll listen again in the next episode. Dr. Naketa Ren Thigpen. Until next time.